Hello and welcome to Geologic. Today I want to talk about how to keep your functions in order. As you know, any logic studio allows to grab function object and drop it to the development area. This is very convenient. You could do it again and again, but if you are not careful, your work area becomes very messy. In this video, I want to address this issue and give you a couple advices about how to keep your functions in order. On the screen you can see service center simulation. Logic diagram is pretty straightforward as well as the visual representation, but we are not interested in simulation itself because we're gonna focus on functions which are used by this model. Time for the first advice. Well, I couldn't even call it advice because over the years it becomes standard for all programming languages. Well, the name of your function should clearly indicate its purpose. I don't need to explain that to experienced developer, but if you're a beginner, well, just admit that if I name this function like startup, name another function, for example, create order, it will become much easier to read and understand purpose of these functions. So I rename all these functions. Take a look how it changed. It's informative. Even with the zero knowledge about model, you could get idea what these functions do. I want to bring your attention to the fact that functions in project window listed in alphabetical order, and you couldn't change the way how it's displayed. So it's time for the second advice. Use a prefix in the function name to categorize function into groups. For example, I want to use SQL prefix for the function which perform database operation. Let me rename function one more. Okay. As you can see, they placed together in function list. They form the group which will be easy to find. You could build another group, for example, to mark report function. I have agent where I put all prefixes for the functions. Let's compare it with the previous list. I'm opening the function list in project window, and as you see, right now we have different groups. It is easy to navigate. Here the functions which perform SQL, even event handler, report functions, payment group. I just want to mention that if you are decide to go to use prefix for the naming, it doesn't mean that all function must have prefix. This is your space. Do what is informative for yourself and convenient for you. So, talking about the convenient, it's convenient to have some visual dividers in a list. Any logic doesn't provide it, but you can emulate it using fake function. Let me show what I mean by saying fake function. I create function, I'm just copy this guy and rename it to the SQL, and now I check this ignore box. It become ignore function, and as you see, it's in the screen, it becomes some kind of separator for the SQL prefix. I'll do it again and create another one. I'll put just letter R, and you see all my report functions have divider in front of them. As you probably guessed, this is my third advice. Use placeholder function to visually separate your list of functions. Let's see how it could be done. I put more separators, but I didn't go crazy. Couple is enough, and it become much easier to navigate inside this list. Next advice is use function overloading. For someone who is not familiar with the object-oriented programming, overloading is when you define functions with the same name by different signature, which means different set of parameters. I'm gonna show how define overload function in any logic. Let's define function error message. It will take timestamp, it's double, second argument is agent, type agent, next error code, type string, and error message itself, type string. I'm gonna put some code. It will be simple trace. In argument, I put the timestamp. I'll put the quotes before the timestamp because timestamp is double and we need the string. And add some space in the agent name. For that purpose, I'll take the get class function and call get name. After that, put some text, something like error and error codes inside parentheses. And after that, just add the message itself. So now copy and paste this function. Any logic add a number to the name, remove number to use overloading. The new version will take error code as an integer, which will be displayed in hex format. So I call original function. Okay, the first argument is same, and put string format to print hex value as the third argument. As you see, okay. Other example, if we want to change number of arguments, I remove timestamp and put current time method. When you overload function, you could put your own code without calling original function, of course. Let me write this example. Now we have four functions with the same name. It means you use same name each time when you need to log error, and Java pick correct method based on your argument lists. Overloading is very convenient tool. Use it. Now I want to bring your attention that we organize function list in project window, but agent development area looks pretty messy. We could move functions around to reorganize space, but let me show one trick. First, go to the presentation and grab the rectangle. I prefer not color. Grab the text, resize it to make it more visible. I'm gonna write order here. Congratulations, we just create special place for the order functions. You just drag related object inside the rectangle. But I'm not done with the presentation. Create group for the rectangle. Let's call it something like function manager group. And put like 3 zeros after that. Now add label to that group. I really recommend to go inside that group and rename members of that group. For example, function rectangle and put zeros. I'll explain later why it's nice to have zeros. Let me rename label, function label, sounds okay. And again, zeros in the end. Now, if I copy this group and paste it, let me move it. As you see, and any logic automatically rename all elements for us. Zeros allow to keep consistency in the name length. Let's paste it again and we will have new group with the same name length as original object. Let's change label, for example, report, and call another one something like customer. So we have area dedicated to customer and report function. One thing, during development you could accidentally select and move graphic elements around. To avoid it, select lock box on the group property screen. Do it for the group, then you don't need to lock all elements individually. One more thing, these presentation elements are not part of simulation. We don't want to do anything with them in runtime. So mark it ignore. They become gray, but they are still readable. Take a look how workspace is changed. In my opinion, it looks more organized and professional. But it doesn't look good when your real visual components are mixed with the fake one. So we need to separate them. Just create new level dedicated to the function group. call it fake level and move all functions group to that level. Take a look now. Visual components are not mixed with a fake one. Now it's nice and separated. And the last thing, if you have noticed, all agent development area doesn't fit the screen. From my experience, visual component could be so big that you could be lost in your development space. And probably it will be helpful to use some navigation tool. Geologic doesn't think about that, but once again, you could trick the system by using any logic presentation element. Let's use the visual area element to simplify our developer's life. Once again, this is not for simulation, this is just tool for yourself. As you see, I put visual area where function object placed. Imagine I'm editing visual component and I want to overview functions. Then I click here, select visual area and boom, I get the function list. It's better to rename visual area and let's ignore it. In that case, this element will be excluded from our simulation execution because this is element only to navigate ourselves inside the development environment, not during the simulation. Of course, you could make multiple visual areas. Let's put one for the flowchart diagrams. Okay, like here. Okay, and just name it as a flowchart and ignore it. Now we could easily switch between views. So, don't afraid to use any logic presentation elements. Organize your workspace how you want, not how any logic dictate to you. Just don't forget to mark it ignore. That's it for today. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave a comments. See you next time. Bye.